thing up. All right. Let's see if this is going. Excellent connection. And
All right.
it is up. It's going.
How many hot babes are in the chat?
Hot babes watching this podcast. Like, for what reason would hot babes ever watch this podcast?
If
For
there's
your cool 90s t-shirts. She's like, oh God, it would bring me such pleasure to be able to get with this guy and wash all 300 of his fucking t-shirts.
By the way, I had told you my rough estimate of 300 to 400. It's actually 258.
Did you count them?
I did.
Oh, okay.
258 that I'm able to find at the moment. There might be a box in my storage closet somewhere that has more. I don't think so.
I hope so. I don't think 258's quite cutting it.
So 258 at least. That's what we're working with.
You should bring me some of those shirts to wear. I don't have any 90s shirts at all. You got like another 90s shirt on today. Rage Against the Machine?
Yeah.
Oh, Battle of Alpine Valley. That wasn't in the 90s. That was like in 2004 or something.
I know. It was already in my closet and not musty smelling, but most of those 258 shirts will need to be washed before I can put them on.
So they're just sitting in boxes or something now? What?
Yeah, boxes and bags, basically stored but not.
Well, are they all like band shirts or are they like celebrity shirts and
band shirts? A lot of cartoon shirts, Pinky and the Brain, stuff like that. Beavis and Butthead.
Was Pinky and the Brain 90s?
Oh yeah,
Ah,
100% 90s.
remember.
Yeah, a lot of 90s. a lot of TV shows and cartoons and bands and a few movies, but mostly just bands, I guess.
All right. Well, we're live. This thing's going. Should I hit the I'm gonna hit the theme song
Hit them with those vibes.
live for the second time this week, thanks to my technical skills.
Skills.
Do you have a thing?
I'm trying to think of one right now, literally.
Oh, what?
I thought you said I was going to be able to hear the theme song a little bit.
No, you can't hear it at all on here.
Oh, I thought I could hear it at least faintly.
No. You gotta, well, you can, but you gotta take your headphones off.
Crap.
You blew it.
I blew it.
It's over. It's okay. Hold on.
I was.
Welcome to the Mindful 90s podcast, the only 90s podcast that slaps harder than Flea on a bass guitar.
That was very good.
Hell yeah, it was good. I already did. Smack your mom's booty. Or no. It was something else.
Slaps harder than a slap bracelet.
Oh yeah, I should have went with smacking your mom's booty. I had to think of another slap one. Flea on a bass guitar was the only thing I could come up with.
I'm already trying to think of one related to parachute pants. I'm halfway there. That's half the battle, so I'll have that ready.
Save it for next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't give it away.
So, it is about 30 degrees warmer right now than it was last Wednesday when we were live.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't have your blankie.
I mean, yeah, exactly. The blankie's here. The blankie's at the ready.
But in case you need it.
I'm okay so far.
I just keep warm by the fire of my warrior's heart. That's what does it for me.
In my mind, that's an Ultimate Warrior reference, and you can't tell me any otherwise. Last week when we were live, the Packers were still in the playoffs, and now, for the first time in my life, I'm rooting for the Lions. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Why? To go to the Super Bowl? Why?
Something different,
I suppose. I mean, yeah, I guess there's not really any teams left that you really want to see go to the Super Bowl, because it's who's on the other side? The Ravens and Kansas City.
Yeah,
they've both been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then the Niners. Recently. Good God! You know, the Niners was the first team I ever called my favorite, which was either in the 80s or the 90s.
Well, yeah, because they had like a dynasty going. It was the Niners and the Cowboys, and
I take that back. the
and the
first
Buffalo.
the first team I ever called my favorite was the Bengals because I thought the color scheme was cool.
Yeah,
That was very brief, and then after that, I decided I liked the Niners, and that one actually lasted several years. So
I've
yeah,
always been just a Packer fan.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I wish I could say the same. So right before we went live, my buddy clicked on my post promoting this podcast on social media and he gave it an angry react. And I messaged him, I'm like, dude, you really want to do me like that? You want to give my podcast an angry react? What if you were trying to run a business online and promote it and I gave you angry reacts? And he's like, I thought that was a good thing. I thought Zuck pushes a post in the algorithm more if it gets angry reacts because it's juicy. It's uh rabble worthy.
Does he do something? Does he do like social media marketing stuff at all?
Who, my buddy, or
Yeah, the
uh
angry react guy.
a a little bit. He is a part owner of a restaurant or something like that. So
Yeah, I haven't done any advertising at all on Facebook. It's probably been 4 years now.
not for this podcast, but for anything.
For anything, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't even know how the algorithm works. But yeah, the name of the game was always trying to uh, game the algorithm somehow. But I stopped doing it when Facebook started not approving ads for anything. If they thought it made people feel bad in even the slightest way, like if you had somebody who was like a picture of like a fat person for like a weight loss program or something, they would deny it because that's body shaming. And it got so ridiculous that nobody even knew what to advertise anymore. And so everybody just stopped doing it.
I remember, yeah,
It
well,
used to be a great platform.
yeah, 10, 15 years ago you're talking about? Like
Yeah, a great platform for like advertising and stuff.
back then people were all like, why do we have a thumbs up react but not a thumbs down react? And Facebook just 100% ignored it. They're like, just stone faced us. Not going to happen because it would
Yeah. But then they
promote
gave you the
negativity
the
probably.
angry and the laugh react, which
And
are basically just used as thumb down react.
basically,
Essentially,
yeah, you know,
it's so dumb.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. They need to give us the thinking one and replace either the heart or the care, which are ostensibly the same thing. Replace one of those with the thinking one because hey, maybe we could promote thinking. Just an idea, but that's just me thinking too much again.
No, people would just use it sarcastically. They would just find a way to use the thinking one sarcastically too.
You put a little extra emphasis on they would find a way because you do not doubt the will of trolls.
Ah,
And when you put it that way, I'm like, yeah, you really can't doubt the will of trolls. They
Facebook
do
has
find a way.
yeah, but Facebook has just become such a self-trolling platform that like honest to goodness trolls like myself who used to take great joy and great pride in trolling people on Facebook can't even do it anymore because everybody is just this weird parody of a human being and it's bizarre like you can't go anywhere with it anymore. I don't know. I'm done. Wh- what do you got for your first topic?
Facebook trolling is eating itself. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I think Facebook trolling is just it's done. Like all the trolls that are still there are the ones who were never that funny or entertaining anyway. They've all fled and gone to Twitter because now they're free to express themselves on Twitter again. So
Or they're parasites and they've used the host of one social media site, so they move on to the next and milk that one dry.
I think the only way to troll Facebook anymore is to just post things. Every time somebody posts some like angry shit, just post something underneath it that says like, I hope you have a wonderful day. And people will just become enraged by that. They'll be like, oh, what'd you mean by that? What's this supposed to mean? People are just perpetually angry. It is such a toxic platform, and I can't believe people don't just flee that platform and just let it fall into the ground like the fucking Twin Towers.
I feel more or less Twitter is just as divisive and toxic, just in a way that you don't mind as much. Like you personally don't mind as much.
Uh, but I feel like there's more diversity on there. Twitter's not trying to show me, unless I ask Twitter to show me stuff that I might be interested in. Twitter's not shoving shit down my throat constantly.
That's a different conversation about the grander scope of which one is better. I can understand that. Twitter is Twitter is better in the sense that it's not getting worse at the staggering pace that Facebook is getting worse. I could go on about that for a long time. You were going to go first this week, right?
I don't know. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, do please.
Okay. Well, um, oh, I wanted to ask you about what do you think was the worst thing about the January 6th attack? Was it the people like running around and screaming and like the chaos of the whole situation or what?
um, eh, I mean, for me personally, it was people having a conversation about it the wrong way, like they always do.
What do
Just
you mean?
already having their minds made up uh, while going into these social media conversations about who's right, who's wrong, who's bad concerning the two different sides of the argument of why January 6th happened.
Wait, what are you talking about? The I was talking about the attack on Nancy Kerrigan, which happened on January 6th, 1994. What were you talking about?
Oh, I was talking about a fever dream that I had about, was that 4 years ago?
Something happened 4 years ago? That, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, this horrible, horrible attack happened on January 6th, 1994.
Can we get a drum roll sound effect queued up for the soundboard there?
I I don't know where it is.
I'll give you a badumts. Okay,
So
you stinker.
there was a moment, a brief moment in time, when the entire world, like all they cared about and talked about was figure skating and ice skating and the people involved. And it happened over the course of just what, like 6 to 9 months, maybe? In 1994, that's all anybody was consumed with, fucking figure skating.
Christy Yamaguchi and Michelle Kwan. It was weird. Even as like a 12-year-old, I'm like, why does everybody suddenly care about figure skating this much?
And here's the thing, the Nancy Kerrigan thing is the only reason anybody remembers any of those skaters who were alive back then, which were like Christy Yamaguchi and Michelle Kwan, Nancy Kerrigan, Tonya Harding. So really what you had was a story of this rags to riches story with this beautiful blonde girl who just came up from nothing and she just wanted to have a taste of Olympic superstardom.
Mhm.
And uh, it was going to be a challenge to get there. And there was this evil witch standing in her way, promising to snatch that away from her. And her name was Nancy Kerrigan. And so,
Her heart was as dark as her hair.
yeah, darker. It was um, forged in the fires of Mordor. And the only hope for figure skating, just anywhere for the sport itself, was an angel like Tonya Harding to come along and make them all very, very famous. Well, here's the thing. If you don't know the story, what happened was Nancy Kerrigan was practicing. This would have been ahead of the 1994 Winter Games, and she's practicing her routine,
Triple cow sal whatever.
innocently practicing as the mainstream media would have you believe, because that's all we had back then was the mainstream media. And they had us all believe that she was just innocently practicing and minding her own business. And some guy comes in from out of nowhere, hits her on the knee, and then books it out of this skating rink. And it was just chaos. And all we saw was the footage of Nancy Kerrigan laying on the ground, crying and screaming, "Why?
Why?
That was absolutely an iconic moment. And the footage goes on, and oh my God, this is it's on YouTube now, and I think it only runs a couple of minutes. But news networks took, because somebody was filming at the time, and news networks took this footage and turned it into like 9 months of content, this 2 minutes over and over again. So it started with Nancy Kerrigan, and she's laying on the ground crying. And then maybe a week later, it would be like, oh, more footage exclusive to Inside Edition has come out from the Nats. And you know, the guy who had that footage had to have made bank.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
cow. He was probably dishing that out
He got
just like 30 seconds at a time, just making ass loads of money. It's all up on YouTube now. You can go watch it. But it turned into a whole media frenzy. And here's the thing. Nobody knew what happened. Up to this point, nobody gave a shit about figure skating. Nobody knew who Nancy Kerrigan was. Nobody knew who Tonya Harding was. Nobody knew any of this. When this happened, all of a sudden, everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on? What a crazy, weird, bizarre, random thing to happen!" And then at the same time, everybody was like, "Tonya, Tonya, did you have something to do with this?" And that's how we learned who Tonya Harding was, because everybody knew immediately where to look. Well, it was probably her number one rival. Why would somebody run into a practice rink and just hit a skater on the knee? Why? There's no reason. She was the only one with motive.
That's the exact word I was about to say.
And that's exactly what happened. As the weeks and months unfolded, you got the whole story. Not a week had passed before this thing was already almost completely wrapped up. That is the brain trust that was in charge of carrying out this devious plot that they somehow thought they were going to get away with. I don't know. But I'm just boggled. I'm boggled by the whole thing. And I remember, even as a kid, when they found out that it was Tonya Harding's ex-husband who was behind it, who was still her manager at the time. That's a whole thing. But they found out, and even as a kid, I'm like, that's the dumbest fucking thing you could possibly do. Like, why would you do that? Why would you go after the main competitor of the person that you're managing or sleeping with or whatever, and think that you're going to get away with it, and think that the entire world isn't going to be like, we know you did this? What is going on? Anyway,
It's very Racine. It's very Wisconsin Rapids.
well, here's the thing about Tonya Harding. Tonya Harding she comes from a very white trash background, and that's part of her allure for me as a former white trash boy watching this all unfold.
And you ain't the only one.
Yeah, because she was the hot one. She was, and I don't mean hot just in the way that she looked, but just in the way that she carried herself and the way she was always kind of talking shit. And she would get into these interviews and be like, I ain't know what's going on here. And Nancy Kerrigan, she would have this kind of very high class demeanor and try to be, I don't want to say understanding of the situation, because she was clearly enraged by the whole thing, but she had more class when dealing with the media. She was definitely putting forth more effort to get middle America on her side. And Tonya Harding just wasn't playing that game. She was just doing her own thing. And that was her problem. So this woman, this beautiful angel, this princess of white trash America.
Beautiful blonde foofy hair.
So yeah. And
bangs anyways.
So she became a figure skater at like 3 years old. And she grew up white trash environment. Or, she always talked about how her mom used to beat her all the time, which, come on. I mean, look, anybody who grew up in a white trash environment, we all got the slappy, okay? Like, you're not getting any sympathy from me. Like it probably played well with middle America where they're like, oh, this poor girl, she was abused her whole life by first her mom, and then it came out that her ex-husband was abusing her. But the rest of us who like come from a certain socioeconomic strata of society, we're like, yeah, that's kind of par for the course.
Uh, Disclaimer for any millennials or younger who are listening. It was a different time, as they say.
Oh, hey, I'm not condoning this at all. Like, I'm not saying it's good to like beat your kids or anything like that. I'm just saying, bring it back a little time. Come on, we were all there, and a lot of us without the benefit of becoming internationally renowned superstar skaters. By the way, uh, most of the women who grew up in exactly the same position she did are like cashiers at Wendy's trying to support 3 kids. That's generally how that turns out for people. So,
Sure.
when people like us are watching that, we're just kind of like, yeah, all right, who cares? Like, who cares about that part of the story, the abuse part of the story? Um, and this is where her husband comes in. This guy, Jeff Gululi. Remember Gululi? Remember that? Can we take a moment to acknowledge how fucking stupid that name is? Gululi? That is the dumbest name ever.
It sounds made up.
It is the trashiest of like Italian mobster like trash names. Like, this is the guy who cleans the garbage after the mob meetings. That's what Galuli reminds. Even as a kid, I thought that was such a stupid name.
You have a picture of him with his glorious mustache, don't you?
Oh yeah, I do. I forgot about that.
That's the kind of mustache you don't forget.
But Galuli sounds like a cartoon dog made out of cheese on a kids TV show. Like, hold on, I'm gonna bring this up. Galuli. Look at this motherfucker. Look at that mustache.
Bro, look at this dude.
Look at that Tonya Harding flavor saver on his face. That Magnum PI. Magnum PI was super big. Well, it would have been like the late 90s, I guess. So he's really
Late
Magnum PI
80s.
ended up right here. I do like that shirt though. Damn. That looks good.
Now,
I like shirts like that.
when was the attack? 92, 93?
94. So the
It
attack
was 94.
Yep, January 6, 1994. So it was right ahead of the Winter Games that were taking place in Sweden. Was it Lillehammer, Sweden? Does that sound
That
familiar?
sounds familiar for sure.
And so right away it came off as very suspicious because they were competitors. And the thing is, she didn't need to do this. She's a great skater. And look, Tonya denied having any involvement with it. To this day, denies having any involvement with it. She admits knowing that something was up, but she didn't know what. So her ex-husband, Galuli, they were married for like 3 years, by the way, from like 1990 to, and 1990 was like her pinnacle too. This is where she was. Okay, she got famous for doing something called a triple axel, which I didn't. I had no idea what that was. She was the first American woman, not the first woman to do it. The first woman to do it, of course, was Japanese because Japanese excel at everything, and it's always the Americans that come in next after they've already done something cool.
Sure.
But it was one of ours. It was a white trash woman who came up from the bottom
Dug
to
herself
be
out
the first
from out the mud.
American woman to do a triple axel in competition. And she ended up winning that year. So she's a very talented skater. She marries Jeff Gululi, this fucking loser. Again, this is the white trash coming out. Okay. By 1990, she's already a rising star. She's going to be Olympic worthy. She won a ton of competitions by this time. she has, by this time, traveled the world. She should be married to a jeweler from Switzerland who owns a $10 million chateau in the Alps somewhere. Who does she marry? She marries a conveyor belt operator. She marries Magnum fucking PI here. And this guy's going to ride her star all the way to the top. That's probably why he's in on it, right?
Wish Mike Patton.
Yeah, right.
Wish
sure.
Mike Patton. I couldn't. Yeah, there you go. Honestly, I didn't know how you were going to take this topic and expand it into an entire topic length conversation. I wasn't expecting you to have opinions from like apparently deep inside about this matter. I'm like, Corey's going to run out of stuff to talk about after like 5 minutes, but no,
it's all about the opinions though. That's the stuff that, I mean, because a lot of the information you can just find anywhere. Like I did a lot of reading on this, obviously, but
I wasn't appreciating the potential for layers and depth to this situation, but you're selling me on it. You legitimately are.
What, that Galuli's a loser?
That Galuli's a loser and that she was something special. I think your average person is not going to look back on her for why she was special. They're going to forget about all the rising star stuff from the first 3 years, 90 through 93, and they're only going to remember the Nancy Kerrigan was the pretty preppy girl who got hurt, and Tonya Harding was the bad guy,
right?
Or on the bad guy's side. And I think that your average person is content to leave it at that.
But here's the thing: if not for this attack, and whether Tonya Harding had anything to do with it or not, is kind of beside the point. It is this attack alone that is the only reason anybody gives a shit about this story at all. Nobody would care about figure skating. Nobody would care about the Olympics in 1994, the Winter Olympics at Lillehammer in Norway or Sweden or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody.
How much did it jack up the ratings because that happened?
Oh, yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Oh, and here's an interesting factoid, too. I'm kind of getting off, but the other part of this is I've just like read everything I can find on this too, because after a while it just becomes interesting. But yeah, so Nancy Kerrigan apparently wore the outfit that she was attacked in to the Olympic Games in Lillehammer, just as like a defiant act to let them know that they weren't going to get to her.
I'm still standing. I'm still here.
So anyway, gosh, I don't even remember where I was now. So Jeff Gululi, he's this loser, right? He's just some loser. He's when I was a kid, I always thought he was like some kind of mobster type of dude. I always envisioned him. This is the first time I remember seeing this guy in real life, just finding pictures of him on the internet, because I don't remember him from back then. Or I had an image of him as being like this big kind of tough, like New Jersey guy, you know. That's but he's not at all. He is just this little beanpole loser from, they're from Washington or Oregon or somewhere in the Pacific
Northwest.
Yeah. So anyway, Gululi, the cartoon dog, hatches this scheme. Apparently, they're just going to take out the competition for the woman that he's managing. Oh, they were divorced by this time. This was, I think, the second time they were divorced. Again,
really?
Because I was talking about how Tonya Harding comes from white trash roots.
Yeah.
This all ties together with that, because now she is tied in with this white trash loser who's now doing white trash things. Instead of just trying to, and by the way, like their whole on again, off again thing behind the scenes, that's all going on. They've already been divorced twice by this time. He's still managing her for whatever reason. I'm sure somewhere along the way she realized, hey, I'm a skating superstar. I can do way better than this guy. She's not wrong. She should have went with that instinct, but the white trash in her just keeps bringing her back. And so she's with Gululi. Gululi, this equally white trash loser, hatches this plot that's going to put his person in the running for the medal at the Winter Games, somehow not thinking that everybody was automatically going to know where to look here. And it didn't take long at all. Tonya Harding had this bodyguard. What was his name? Sean Eckert.
Burly guy, right?
Yep, he was this burly guy who was friends of Jeff Gululi from childhood, who ran a security company out of his parents' house. And that's how they hooked up. Apparently, Tonya got a death threat the November before this. And so this guy was contracted to be her bodyguard, although all the reports say he never showed up to her practices or whatever. So he was sitting at home watching the ball game, eating Cheetos. He wasn't doing shit. The guy who actually orchestrated the attack, the guy who ran in with the metal baton and like whacked her knee, he was some 22-year-old kid. His name was Shane Stanton. And the other guy involved who drove the getaway car was Shane's uncle Derek. So again, this is just more layers of white trash on top of white trash. Like, imagine calling your uncle and being like, "Hey, Uncle Derek, we got a job." $6,500 they made too, and Galuli's just like, "Hey, how about a whack of the knee?" That's how I envisioned this, all going down as a kid. And so
you wouldn't even have to worry about it. Come on.
And so Shane would be like, "Oh, why don't you a whack of the knee? I got the conveyor belts to operate over here. I can't be out whacking the knees." So anyway, Uncle Derek gets involved. He's driving the getaway car. And the whole plan is the guy's just going to run in there, whack her in the knee, run out, jump in the getaway car, boom, and they're gone. And I guess they just thought they were never going to be seen again. Okay. Not even a week has passed, and the investigation is all over them, by the way, right off the bat, of course.
Yeah.
Because Gululi, the fucking mastermind genius here, thought, for whatever reason, that his plan was solid. I get enraged by seeing no effort go into an otherwise decent plan. So, the bodyguard, this Eckert guy, Sean Eckert, whichever one it is, he cracks under the pressure. He's probably looking at a lot of jail time. And I mean, he's got a security company, like a serious security company, to run out of his parents' house. So he's got to get back to, he can't leave that hanging, or that's just going to collapse.
Sounds pretty serious, I guess.
So, here. Yeah, there's Gululi. Check out these boys. So the guy in the green right there, that's the bodyguard.
Yeah.
That's who Gululi hired. Mustaches were in 1994, as you can see. And there's the lawyer in the middle, and that's Uncle Derek on the end there. So I don't know if the $600 or the $6,500 paid for his legal fees or not, but I mean, that's who Tonya Harding is, who she's banking on here to protect her. And well, I guess she didn't really know about Uncle Derek, but whatever. Anyway,
so Tonya Harding was so focused on being a good figure skater, she had no capacity to care about surrounding herself with the right people at all. That's pretty focused. That's pretty focused.
Yeah, I guess we'll go with that. We'll go with that. Leave all the white trash stuff out of here. So anyway, all of this collapses in a matter of weeks. It takes them no time at all to get everybody who's involved. They all end up doing jail time, except Tonya, who gets, I think it was like $160,000. She gets a fine. And the only fine that she got was for impeding the investigation. She must have lied to one of the investigators or something about something. But to this day, she maintains that she never had anything to do with the attacks themselves. So again, I don't know. All I know is, we come from that world. So I wouldn't be entirely surprised, but I'm going to go ahead and believe her. Maybe on her deathbed, she'll have something else to say. But yeah, the thing is, again, like I said, she didn't need to do this. She's talented. She was plenty talented enough. But anyway, it dominated everything for months.
Months, yeah.
They went to the Olympics, and then that was a whole issue. Nancy Kerrigan, I already said she wore that outfit. That was a whole media sensation. Tonya Harding broke a shoelace while she was skating. I remember this too. As I'm reading about this stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, this was another big thing that they showed ad nauseum for like a week straight on the news. She broke a shoelace during one of her routines, and she goes up to the judges and she's holding her shoelace and she's crying and she's like, oh, give me another chance. It's not fair. I broke a shoelace. I just want to go out and do it again. And they let her do it. They let her go back out. Mm-hmm. But that's another Seinfeld reference, by the way. There is an episode where it's called The Understudy, I think is the name of the episode. But the whole thing is there is a woman who is studying under Bette Midler. Bette Midler. And so she's on stage and she breaks a shoelace. There's a scene where she breaks a shoelace and she just starts crying and she's like, let me start over. Let me start over. I broke a shoelace. And that's what Tonya Harding did. So they were making fun of her. That's what this was all about. Anyway, this is all downhill for Tonya at this point. She gets caught up in this shit and she breaks her shoelace. She's in the middle of this media firestorm. She doesn't place at that Winter Olympics. She placed awful, really bad. And Nancy Kerrigan, of course, everybody was like, oh, the darling. Oh, we want you to get the gold, blah, blah, blah.
The one we want to see in the Disney parade.
Yeah, she was in the Disney parade. Yes, exactly. And she lost to some Ukrainian, rip Ukraine. She lost to some Ukrainian girl. And she was like, Nancy Kerrigan is kind of a stuck-up bitch. She gets caught behind the scenes complaining about this girl like holding up the medal ceremony or something. And so I think Nancy Kerrigan, all this is on YouTube, by the way. You can go and watch this shit. And Nancy Kerrigan is backstage with, I think, Michelle Kwan or one of the other skaters who was there. And she's saying something like, oh, she's holding up the ceremony. All she's going to do is come out here and cry some more. She's been crying since she won, blah, blah, blah. Just, people thought that was like really bitchy of her. But when you watch the video, you're like, oh, that's not that bitchy. This Ukrainian chick needs to get her shit together. She's holding up the fucking medal ceremony. That's on her. She's not wrong.
Yeah.
So the other thing Nancy gets a bunch of heat for is she's in the Disney parade.
I know.
Again with a hot mic situation.
I know this one.
Yeah. And she's complaining about Mickey Mouse. Oh, Mickey Mouse is so dumb. This is the corniest thing I've ever done.
This is the corniest thing I've ever done.
And that is another big. So maybe by the end of the first month, everybody's starting to be like, maybe you deserve that whack in the knee. People are kind of coming around on Tonya a little more. And maybe that's why there's the movie I, Tonya, which honestly I should have watched to prep for this. It probably would save me a bunch of time. But maybe that's why they decided to do a movie that humanizes somebody that the media made a complete monster. I just remember at the time, Tonya bad, Gululi, you got a stupid name. Yeah, so you're bad automatically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the story of Nancy Kerrigan and Tonya Harding, which, again, my main point here is, yeah, maybe it was wrong what they did. Maybe this was karma for Nancy. She's got a big mouth. She's always talking shit about everybody around her.
Yeah, apparently.
But the point is, thanks to Tonya Harding being the white trash shooting star that she is, surrounding herself with more of her kind, she's the white trash planet, and they are the moons.
Gravitating.
And because of that, because of her existence, because she's such a great skater, because she put in all of that work and mastered the triple axel. Because she did this, people remember the name Nancy Kerrigan to this day. Tonya Harding is the hero.
Yeah, I'm finding it difficult to disagree with anything you're putting out here. My question for you is, what kind of a mindfulness twist are you trying to put on this? What what's our takeaway as far as the way that the media just beat this into our heads and made the narrative Tanya bad, Nancy Kerrigan good? What kind of mindfulness twist do you want to put on all that?
Well, but we know that. We know that's what the media does. At least we've known that for a long time.
And if that was in 94, the media has been doing it at least for 30 years
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
on this kind of level.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think a lot of our boomer parents knew that's what the media was doing. I think they still, at the time, they thought, or most of them thought that the media was only reporting the truth, right? And as kids, we don't really give a fuck about figure skating and figure skaters. Like, this is just background noise for most of us.
Yeah.
The only reason I even remember as much as I did about the event is because it was such a big event at the time. It was everywhere and you couldn't get away from it.
Yeah. Yep.
So
OJ stuff, Bobbitt stuff, same thing.
so I'm not really all that interested in the aspect of the media doing what they do, which is the good guy, bad guy narrative. They can tell the story however they want. I am far, but I've always been more interested in the bad guys. I've always wanted to hear their side of the story. When I was a kid, I used to read books about people like John Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde and Al Capone, people like that, because I wanted their side of the story. I wanted to know what their perspective was, because you always grow up with people telling you these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, but they don't ever tell you why. They don't ever explain why. They give you one or two examples. Oh, she got hit in the knee before the Olympics. Okay, but why? What's the motivation behind it? Who are the people behind it?
Were you a fan of the movie Natural Born Killers? That was totally a movie about getting the bad guy's side of the story.
I never saw it.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I saw bits and pieces of it, but I've never sat down and watched the entire movie. And yeah, it was a huge movie. Everybody I know watched it. For whatever reason, I just didn't.
All right. Um, by the way, everything that I ever knew about the Nancy Kerrigan, Tonya Harding situation up until this day was just what I saw on SNL. It was just what I saw on Weekend Update and skits mostly making fun of Tonya Harding because they had a
Sure.
blonde cast member who did a decent Tonya Harding impression. Um, and then there was the time that Nancy Kerrigan hosted Saturday Night Live,
Which you said last week, yeah.
which I mentioned, and
And I never saw that one.
that's pretty funny. But yeah, in her monologue, she said, when I got caught on that hot mic, I just want to clarify to everybody what I actually said was, this is the horniest thing I've ever done. Uh, eh, decent joke. Decent.
If only.
Before I go and do my first topic, do we want to play uh, the voicemail we got from Diley?
Oh, okay.
We were gonna play that at the beginning of the show. It's self-explanatory.
All right.
I'm pretty sure Andy has a point here. There wasn't as much screen time in the 90s as the 2000s. I mean, in the 2000s, I got addicted to this Facebook game called Hobo Wars. Man, you were able to fight other hobos, raise rats as pets,
Sounds awesome.
race and modify your shopping cart. That was the life.
It was.
Do you know the difference between a hobo on a unicycle and a man in a suit on a bike? A tire. Anyway, in the
A
90s,
tire.
I wasn't able to play such a game. I was actually outside being a hobo. Not a cell phone inside.
The 90s were better. instead of playing Hobo Wars, you see what he's saying?
You could be a hobo.
It we weren't staring at screens. We were busy being real hobos. Not a cell phone in sight, just people living in the moment of being hobos for real.
You know, when we were kids, we lived in Wapaka, and there are train tracks that go through the town. We lived maybe a block or two down the street from a railroad bridge, but if you go on the other side of town, there's no bridge, and the train is moving really, really slow to where you can jump on the train. And when we were kids, we used to do that if we happened to be over there when there was a train going by. We'd, jump on it and ride it for, I don't know, 100 yards or two and then jump off. And we talked about taking the train to the next town. We never did that,
Yeah.
but the hobo was in us. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. Like we had the hobo instincts in us back then,
You guys probably didn't even have do-rags to pee on.
or to put our lunch in.
You know about that, right? I'll tell you about it some other time. My first topic is Dana Carvey.
What about Dana Carvey, pray tell?
Geez, where do I begin? He's one of my heroes. He's, geez, yeah, where did I plan on beginning? I guess I'll just start from the start.
Dana Carvey of Wayne's World.
Of Wayne's World fame. Wayne's World was when I discovered who he was.
Well, that would be the
92.
That would be the thing that probably everybody knows him from, because again, people weren't big SNL fans, or at least they didn't talk about it, as we discussed before.
Not necessarily, yeah.
So everybody would have known him from Wayne's World, probably.
Yeah, he was on SNL's cast from 86 to 93. So still definitely a very 90s thing, even just as far as that goes. Yeah, I want to talk about how he's one of my heroes. He's a little bit of an unsung hero. He has a little bit of that punk aesthetic in him, which I very much commend. I'll tell you why he was a little bit more of a stick it to the man type of guy than a lot of people realize. And he was also a big spaz, but I think I'm not allowed to say spaz. I think that
What do you mean? Like on YouTube?
like in general in the zeitgeist. There was a Weird Al
You can't
song
say the N word and you can't say the F slur on YouTube, but I think
or the R slur.
You can't say R slur anymore? What?
I'm just talking about the general rules of etiquette. This is a quick aside here. Weird Al made a song on his last album where he mentioned somebody being a spastic, and he got a bunch of feedback from European fans who said calling somebody a spastic is actually a big slur, akin to like calling somebody an R slur, because it means you don't have control of your muscles, and it's an ableist comment to make. And Weird Al was like, "Oh wow, thanks for letting me know. I literally didn't know that before." So when he does that,
Isn't it just a word that describes how somebody is?
I
What are you
mean,
supposed to, what do you call it? What's the proper term for spastic?
I don't know what to tell you, man. I think you're just
If I
supposed to
wanted to
leave it
say,
alone.
well, you can't say anything. You can't be like, oh, he's um calm, challenged. I don't know.
Otherly muscled. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
That's weird.
It is, yeah. So I always used to say in the 90s, like, yeah, guys like Dana Carvey and Robin Williams, they're spazzes like me. That's why I identify with them a little bit more. Now I'm like, am I even allowed to say that anymore? So I guess I'll just call myself a dweeb with extra energy. Am I gonna get in trouble for saying that? Is dweeb now the D slur? Like what are
Not
we
till
dealing with here?
2026.
Yeah, it's
You got
coming.
a couple years.
It pretty soon. This podcast is gonna get big. 2 years from now, somebody's gonna find a clip from this show where I'm saying dweeb. By then, dweeb will be a slur, and I'm gonna get canceled. Then we're gonna
You're gonna
lose.
get canceled. You're gonna get rich.
We're gonna lose all our sponsors, though.
No, because everybody's gonna the Patreon is gonna blow up. That's what's gonna happen. Everybody's gonna be like, oh, "We have some new racists here. Let's give them money."
God.
And I mean, I'm comfortable being anything that people want to throw money at me for.
Jeez.
Hey, I'll be as ableist as you want. Give me some more dollars.
So yeah, I always identified with Dana Carvey for a lot of reasons. Number one, he just always seemed like the nicest guy in the world, like a real genuine person. But he also had that extra dweeb energy, and he seemed like a people pleaser, and he seems like he always wanted to turn everything into a bit and always make people laugh. And I'm like, that's me. I always, in a social situation in the 90s, I always felt like I had to be on and try to do that kind of stuff. So I always kind of just recognized Dana Carvey as being akin to me. And I mentioned Robin Williams too. I'm like, yeah, I don't do what they do as well as they do it, but I'm like the same vibes. Like I'm the same vibes as them. I do that same thing. Anyways, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. Let me go chronologically here. You've got
Okay, can I just say I don't know Dana Carvey from anything except the Dana Carvey show, which I saw maybe the first 3 episodes of. I never watched the entire thing.
I'm disappointed in you, sir.
I
You have homework now.
well, I have it sitting on a drive. Dude, I have a queue so far into the future of shit that I want to watch, but it's on
Yeah.
there. Like
Yeah.
it's sitting on a drive. I have it.
It's for what it's worth, it's a small commitment. It's 8 episodes and 15,
Yeah,
15
true.
minutes of
It is.
outtakes.
And I've already seen the first 3, so whatever.
So there you go.
So it's that, and even that came later. That wasn't something that I saw at the time that it was on. It was something that I saw 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago.
Okay.
So it's
It didn't hit the same.
relatively new.
Yeah.
Uh, Wayne's World, of course, and Saturday Night Live.
And Saturday Night.
That's it.
That's what you know him from.
Well, I know him from shitty movies besides that. Other than those
He made
3 things.
He made some stinkers, yeah.
Yeah. That's so I never got the impression that he was he's a talented comedian. I mean, the church lady was fucking hilarious because that was a lot of our life growing up. We saw that shit all the time. But yeah, and obviously Garth was genius, but
Right.
I never saw anything that really got me into Dana Carvey as a person, I guess.
Bro, we grew up in Amherst, Wisconsin, a town that back in those days was like 700 people, and the richly Catholic community managed when Amherst finally got cable and it went through the Amherst Telephone Company, the Catholic community managed to vote to have MTV and maybe Comedy Central like taken off.
Yeah. No, that happened in Osage, Iowa, where I used to live too. It was all small communities.
It was a bunch of church ladies.
Yeah, it was.
A bunch of church ladies who got together, had a meeting, and they're like,
yeah, they were worried about corrupting the purity of the youth. Yeah.
let's not let our children watch these bulbous breasts and buttocks.
We got MTV in Osage. We didn't get Comedy Central. So what I would do is I would come back to Wisconsin and I would tape VHS tapes of South Park and bring it back to Iowa.
Tape trade for MTV in Wisconsin.
And that's how everybody, well, because I lived with my stepdad at the time, and at the time he had a satellite dish because he lived in a trailer out in the middle of nowhere. And so we had this satellite dish to get TV on. And yeah, I was recording South Parks and taking them back there. And that's how everybody in Osage found out about South Park back in the day.
You were a hero. Thank you for
Yes.
your service. I used to try to do that stuff whenever I could, whether I visited a relative out of town or what. I'm like, you have a VCR, you have cable, I'm bringing blank tapes. And I would just literally put in a tape at bedtime and hit record and go to bed, and whatever I brought home on those tapes, I sifted through and I saved and showed my friends. Anyways, so I discovered Dana Carvey because of Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2. And then when I started watching Saturday Night Live, it was 94. He had just left the show. But every now and then during the summer months, they would play a rerun from the year before. And I'd be like, oh, hey, it's a Dana Carvey one. This is cool. So Dana Carvey and the guys like Sandler and Farley overlapped by somewhere around a half a season. Maybe they overlapped by a whole season, but I think it was more like a half a season. Those skits, some of those skits were some of the funniest stuff you'll ever see. Um, and so Dana Carvey left SNL in 93. It was one of those things where he didn't like get let go or anything, but he didn't necessarily quit. I think it's just like he did the contract that he had signed up for, and it's like, well, I'm a big enough name, thanks to Wayne's World mostly, that I'm going to move on to the next thing and see what happens. And did you watch the documentary Too Funny to Fail?
No,
No.
I started it.
They mentioned something. I just watched this documentary a week and a half ago for the first time, even though it's been out for a few years. It was a documentary show. It was a documentary about the Dana Carvey show, and I learned some stuff I didn't know before. When Dana Carvey left SNL, there were talks about him potentially replacing David Letterman soon after that, like as in like 94 or 95.
As a talk show guy?
Yeah, as a talk show
Wow.
guy. That was maybe going to happen. I don't know all the specifics of it. I don't know if it was contingent upon like, well, when Carson retires, if certain people shift certain ways, Dana Carvey might get inserted into the picture. But if those certain moves don't get made, then Dana Carvey won't be in the picture. Either way, I know for a fact that Dana Carvey said he wouldn't consider it anyways because he wanted to take a little bit of time to spend more time with his family, his two sons and his wife, after how grueling SNL was. And especially when you're trying to do movies and SNL at the same time back in the early 90s, it got really demanding. It got really tiring. He didn't want to quit SNL and jump right into being the new David Letterman right away. But could you imagine a parallel universe where you and I are enjoying summer vacation in 1995 and it's like, what am I going to watch tonight, Leno or Carvey? Like how fucking weird would that have been, man? Think about the skits between the monologues and the guests that Dana Carvey would have been giving us every night.
But that's kind of what he excelled at, though. He's not, I mean, is he really good with long form comedy? It seems, I mean, it seems like the movies that I've seen with him in it, where it's kind of just on his shoulders to carry the movie, those are the ones I just don't do that good. Don't you think?
And that might maybe, but that might just be happenstance. It might have just been bad scripts and wrong bad
But he
timing.
would have had a hand in it.
Yeah. I don't know. But what I'm really saying is like
He's a big name. He can say, "Oh, this is stupid. I'm not going to do this," or "Hey, this is really funny. I'm going to do this."
yeah. So he ended up not doing that. So we're at 93, 94 at this point in time. He's like, "No, I don't want to be the next David Letterman. Thanks, but no thanks." And then he's trying to figure out what he's going to do next, and a deal starts getting materialized for him to have his own show, half-hour variety sketch show on ABC. So he starts putting together his Avengers team of who's going to make this show with him. And he gets Robert Smigel. Some people may or may not know Robert Smigel was a writer for SNL for many, many years in the late 80s and early 90s. He has triumphed the insult comic dog.
Mm.
He was one of Bill Swirsky's super fans. You know, Duh Bears.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of those four guys. And he was the brainchild behind the ambiguously gay duo. Freaking awesome cartoon. Um, he gets him as like the main writer, main co-producer with him. And then they're like, okay, we need to get to some talent together to act out this sketch comedy show. And they go to Second City in Chicago because they heard buzz about this guy named Steve Carell. And so they go to scout him out. Some weird things end up happening, and they go on a week where he can't be there that week. Either he was sick or he had a prior engagement. So everything Steve Carell was going to do, his understudy did for him instead. So they're like, oh, we didn't know this was going to happen. We took this trip for kind of no reason. The understudy was Stephen Colbert. So they discovered this guy and they're like, we're going to have both of them audition and just kind of see what happens, see what unfolds. Because they either stayed for another week or they left and came back for another week, and they did see Steve Carell and they did like him. And sure enough, they gave both of those two guys complete unknowns at the time. Just some guys who had a little bit of buzz in the Second City improv scene in Chicago in 1994-95. And they both get parts on the show. They also hire this guy named Louis C.K. to be one of the he was like the second most important writer next to Robert Smigel for the show.
See, I knew about that one.
Yeah. And Louis C.K. wasn't like he appeared in maybe like 3 or 4 tops skits in the entirety of the Dana Carvey show.
He appeared, but he was one of the writers, though, I thought.
No, he was one of the writers, but I'm just saying, like, how much screen time did he get? Just for those who wanted to know. The Dana Carvey show ended up lasting for 7 episodes before it was canceled. The first season was a mid-season replacement, so they only had 8 episodes prepared anyways. They didn't even get to air their last episode because ABC got into such a mode of like panic / losing faith / this is the wrong show, wrong time, wrong place, wrong time slot kind of thing. They didn't even get to bow out gracefully.
What was their problem with it? What was ABC's problem with it? Because for anybody who wants to go back and watch that show, by the way, you're going to watch that and you're going to be like, why would anybody have a problem with this?
So
it seems so tame by today's standards.
So we're talking about 1996 when the Dana Carvey show aired on ABC as a Tuesday night show in the time slot immediately after Home Improvement. Home Improvement, dare I say, was white hot at that time. It was a very family show, very formulaic show.
Mm.
Was any of the humor risque?
No.
Some of the humor in Home Improvement was slightly risque to complete normies, but that's different. That they don't know.
I don't remember anything risque about Home Improvement.
And what happened was the very first episode of the Dana Carvey show, it premiered at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, immediately after Home Improvement, immediately after we have this sitcom about a family who learns morals and gets along in the end. And the first episode of the Dana Carvey show, what's that?
I said, yeah, that shit's stupid.
Stupid
learning
shit.
Morals and lessons.
The first episode of the Dana Carvey show starts out with a skit where Bill Clinton.
Yeah, that is the one skit that really stuck with me from that show.
It is truly infamous.
It's so fucking funny. It's not funny until the very end. That's the thing.
Bill Clinton promises that even if Hillary Clinton were to like go to jail for the stuff that she was on the verge of getting in trouble for doing.
Yeah, it was all whitewater shit.
Or being accused of doing. He promised that even in her absence, Bill Clinton could be both the father and the mother figure for this country.
And care for everybody.
He wanted to be caring and nurturing and motherly to the point where he had, quote unquote, surgery done to have lactating breasts implanted into his body. And he unbuttons his shirt and he has 2 lines of 4 nipples that were actively lactating.
Yeah.
He starts feeding a fake baby. That's pretty funny. He starts feeding like cats and dogs, like other like stagehands are bringing him. That's pretty funny. At one point, I think like a cow or a horse or something actually was escorted on and started suckling from his teat.
Mm-hmm.
And the documentary, Too Funny to Fail, they go into this. They're like, we had talks. We had talks amongst the writing staff and the crew. We had talks between us and the higher up producers. Like, what skit do we start with? What do we want our first impression to be? And there was a lot of pushback, a lot of, no, we don't want that to be the first thing that people see.
No, that was perfect.
Exactly. Dana Carvey was like in that zone where he's like, the most important thing to me is to do what I want to do. And that's what he wanted to establish from the word go with this show, the Dana Carvey show. I'm here to do what I want to do. I'm here to have fun, be a little bit risque, venture into new ideas.
I can't believe people threw such a thing over that, because that's what happened, right? Isn't that probably, I'm guessing, what brought it all down.
The people monitoring the Nielsen ratings were like, we couldn't believe the sudden plunge after that first skit. It went from like 3 million viewers to like, I don't know, less than a half a million viewers within 5 minutes. Just an absolute tank.
Wow.
Nosedive. And so
these are all people watching Home Improvement. That's your audience. I don't know. It seems weird from a marketing standpoint.
These are people who are like, oh, we know Dana Carvey from stuff like The Church Lady, which is easily digestible comedy formula. We get it. We know what it is.
That would be risque to those people.
A little bit. Maybe not as much so, but yeah, those people are like, ooh, now that Home Improvement's done, this spicy new Dana Carvey show is on. I wonder if he's gonna do a little bit of Church Lady. Ooh, we might want to put the kids to bed for this one.
Yeah,
and then they get lactating nipples,
right.
Bill Clinton. and Dana Carvey on this documentary talking about the Dana Carvey show, he's not apologetic. He thinks it's funny. He shows acknowledgement for when the higher up producers and the network bigwigs were like, come on guys, let's try to be a little bit more appealing to a mass audience like the kind that watch ABC. He's like, I get where they were coming from, but at the end of the day, like I said, he was more all about, I want to do what I want to do. And he had the ability to do it. And uh, he could have sold out and put out something more watered down.
But I feel like that was all his movies after that, though.
He could have gone the safe route, and he didn't. Now, whenever we mention bad Dana Carvey movies, the one that keeps popping into my head is Master of Disguise. That's my go-to for like,
that was a bad one.
For like, oh God, why did he make that? Clean Slate wasn't a terrible movie, but it didn't make any noise because it wasn't interesting in any way. And what the hell else did he do in the 90s after Wayne's World besides Clean Slate and Master of Disguise? He kind of now to be fair, Dana Carvey,
were those even 90s movies? I thought those were like early 2000 movies.
Master of Disguise was I want to say 99.
Okay.
Clean Slate had to have been like between Wayne's World 1 and 2, I think. I hope I'm not getting these time frames too terribly wrong.
Doesn't matter. They were bad. Don't watch them.
At one point, Dana Carvey did, and I should have done my research a little bit better, but
yeah, what's he done since then?
He actually got cancer at one point, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was an issue where he went to have a medical procedure done, and the doctor botched it, and then he had to sue them, and then he got money for that, and then he had to go find another doctor to do it the right way. That was a whole lot of hubbub, a whole lot of scary to do that kind of kept him out of Hollywood for a while. So that hindered his career a lot too. Meanwhile, you've got these super driven guys like Mike Myers and Adam Sandler, his contemporaries,
who are just like pumping out movies,
absolutely killing it, making money hand over fist with these insane movies that they're doing. And Dana Carvey wasn't doing that.
Yeah, he just fell off the radar.
Yeah, he fell off the radar. But nowadays, I listen to his podcast with David Spade called "Fly on the Wall." He's a cool guy. He's not bitter. He's still got that same energy, just not at the same level because he's not as young anymore. He's still an energetic dweeb. He still turns everything into a bit. He's still nice and seems like he's a people pleaser. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who has any regrets for doing anything the way that he did. He's in it for the lulz, but not in a troll kind of way. He's in it for the lulz because humor for humor's sake is very pure. And I think he cares about that more than he cares about money. That's just kind of what I gather from him. And just for funzos, I looked up the net worth of some of these people we've been talking about. Dana Carvey's net worth is 20 million, and Colbert and Carell, one of them was 75, one of them was 80.
Yeah.
So
sure.
So on average, they're both 4 times as rich as Dana Carvey and have more name notoriety at this point. They've done more big stuff.
because he discovered him and brought him in.
He's the one that brought him in. Would I rather be Colbert or Carell, or would I rather be Dana Carvey in this very moment in time?
Oh, gee, would I rather have $20 million or 80 million? I don't know.
You say it,
Doesn't even matter.
you say it like that, but obviously there are a lot of people in this country who are like, get out there and get every dollar you can. You know, look at pro wrestlers, look at sports guys. They, if it's not enough millions of dollars, they feel insulted. You have to throw more piles of money at them.
Well, yeah, that's because your talent is based on how much money you're getting, though. You're just talking about if I could be this one guy or this other guy, like who would I rather be?
Well,
Like without having to do anything for it, just to have it happen. Like the money wouldn't even be an issue. No, you know what would be an issue for me? How their wives are. Is Steve Carell's wife a bitch? Then I don't want his life.
um, the very maybe I should save this for another. No, I'm not going to save it for another topic. I'm just going to say it now. The very first day of school, in grade school, especially back in the 90s, you always want to have cool new clothes on, right? You want to show people that you're not wearing the same stuff you wore last year. That first day of school is kind of important. The first day of fifth grade, I was wearing a Wayne's World t-shirt. Uh, it was like less than a week before school was going to be starting, and we were at Walmart or Kmart or Shopko, one of those. My back to school clothes shopping was already done for the year, but I found this Wayne's World shirt for like $10, and it was just the movie poster on a white shirt. Said, "You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll hurl." And so this was fifth grade. I would have been 10. Um, and I begged mom super hard. And surprisingly, she said yes. And she bought it for me. So I wore that shirt. It went as well as it possibly could have gone. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, that shirt's awesome." And I'm like, "That must mean I'm awesome." And Dana Carvey, you're like, "If you say so, buddy." And Dana Carvey played a part in that.
Hmm.
So really the point I'm trying to drive home with the fact that I even brought in Dana Carvey as a topic.
Well, it's a good topic because he would like everything he did was in the 90s. There was nothing that came after that.
Right.
Like, yeah, he does a podcast, he does some stuff now, but it's not like anything nobody gets famous doing podcasts.
Yeah. All the relevant stuff he did was in the 90s. And guys like him, you know, they were, I might have already said this phrase when I started the topic, kind of an unsung hero. Like guys like him were influential to me and kind of mentor like to me in a way that was more subconscious than conscious. Like he made me feel more okay about being the kind of person I naturally was than even Adam Sandler or Chris Farley did. Like I love those guys to death, but Dana Carvey was more my spirit animal, and I was glad he was there. I'm glad he was. I'll I'll just say it. I'm glad he was a spaz. And his he had a stand up routine called Critics' Choice 5 Star that only aired on Comedy Central in the mid to late 90s. Hilarious. It's one of my favorite stand up routines of all time.
He never did another one? It was just that?
He did more. They weren't as good. They weren't as funny, and they weren't out there in the zeitgeist as much as that Critics' Choice 5 Star one was. It's the one where he brought up his guitar towards the end and he did his impression of he's like, "Here's every Neil Young song you ever heard," and it's just super funny. He made fun of OJ, he made fun of just all kinds of stuff. He was on fire that night, and it was just that energy, that Robin Williams like energy. I'm just like, it's so refreshing to see somebody in Hollywood who is like that and doesn't hold back. They just go for it. They're not worried about whether or not they're doing it too much to the point where they're not cool. And that kind of helped me to be okay with the fact that I knew that I was not cool. I guess I'll leave it at that. I'm not cool, but it's okay because Dana Carvey wasn't either. And his hair was terrible.
You know who
His hair was terrible. He didn't care.
you know who was cool? Jeff Gululi. He was cool enough to fuck Tonya Harding.
Didn't you just trash talk that guy for like 40 straight
Yeah,
minutes?
he sucks. And in fact, for my second topic is a continuation of the first topic where I am going to really I set up the Jeff Gululi appetizer for how much he sucks, but it's not just his name and it's not just him being stupid.
That poor mustache, that glorious mustache is being attached to the wrong person. I feel bad for it.
He doesn't look bad. He's not a bad looking guy. I mean, he got Tonya Harding. I mean, it wasn't on his fucking brains. But the reason I really, really despise this guy is because of what happened on their wedding night. Did you ever hear a little story about
The first wedding night or the second wedding night?
Jeff Gululi and Tonya Harding's wedding night? Well, here
No.
it goes like this. Tonya Harding walks into their dumpy little Motel 6 2-star hotel room.
Somewhere in Washington State.
Wearing her wedding dress and she's posing and then she puts up a leg on the table and she pulls her dress back and she's got the garter there and Gululi says, "Nice." And he reaches over and he pulls the garter down off her. And then
she says, "I got a triple axle for you."
She lifts up her wedding dress and Gululi starts getting all handsy and the nethers there. And he's like, Gululi, the poet. He's like, "You're so gorgeous." The reason we know these intimate details about their wedding night is because they made a video of everything that happened on the wedding night.
Okay.
Jeff Gululi made a video. And you know this was Tanya's idea too. Like, you got to know it was her. She's like, "No, I want to capture every moment of our wedding, especially this." Because that's what white trash girls do. That is exactly the kind of thing that they would be into. So
not everybody had money for a camera back then. If you have money for a camera, you use that damn thing.
Well, it was a shitty camcorder. My aunt probably had a better camera than Jeff Gululi was carrying around.
My family, when I was growing up, never had any kind of camcorder.
Well, we didn't either. I had relatives who did. But the problem is they wanted to capture this intimate moment of their wedding night. And it sucks. It just really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And I hate Jeff Gululi more than ever for botching what is probably the most important piece of pornographic history that the world could have ever asked for. This was a video that should have captured a shooting star. This was a Bigfoot moment.
Should have been lightning in a bottle. Yeah.
You have before you a world-renowned figure skater who, like, all the shit hasn't gone down yet. That was 4 years into the future. Doesn't matter. You have a figure skater. This is 1990 in her prime. We've all been teenage boys watching figure skaters on the ice and thinking, "Man, she's so beautiful. I wonder what she looks like naked."
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Jeff Gululi was going to give that to us. And he failed miserably. First of all, I'm a video guy.
Mm-hmm.
I do video. One of the most important parts of any video project is lighting.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
This is the darkest piece of shit I have ever seen. There is no lights on anywhere. Tonya, she gets up. The video doesn't even get good until there's a scene. By the way, I watched this. I watched this from start to finish. It runs about 20 minutes. There's a night 1 and a night 2, and they both suck equally for different reasons. But there's a scene where she, bends over to flip up her wedding dress to show off her ass and her sexy wedding panties. She has the most perfect ass I have ever seen in my life. This is a figure skater's ass that we're looking at. This is supposed to be the most beautiful. This is more beautiful than a sunset. This is more beautiful than a Van Gogh. The, Michelle Kwan never did this for us. Christy Yamaguchi, Nancy Kerrigan, they never gave this to us. The hero, Tonya Harding, steps up again to give boys everywhere exactly what they've always wanted to see from their favorite figure skaters.
Sure.
Their naked bodies.
In their prime.
And Jeff Gululi couldn't be bothered to do it right. It is this dark, pixelated piece of shit. It's not too pixelated. It's not bad. So what she does is she takes off the dress. Here's the other thing about it. There is no magic here at all. They clearly just want to fuck. That's all that's going on here. There is no lead up. There's no seduction. There's no say something poetic, Gululi. Don't just be like, nice pussy.
Not even some corny one-liners.
Nothing. It is embarrassing. Look, if I'm going to be on camera for my wedding night, I'm putting on a show, baby.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do with a camera. No, you don't get any of that. She takes off her dress. There's nothing special or beautiful about it. There's no seductive dance. There's nothing. Just whoop, dress comes off, and you see her. Now, she's got very small tits, which is fine. She's a figure skater, and she's very, very muscular. That's the other thing. At a certain point, okay, here, I'm getting ahead of myself. They end up making their way to the bed, and she starts to give Gululi a blowy, and they kind of got some 69 stuff going on. And so Tonya gets on top, and she starts doing her thing on top. And this is the first time it gets good, because she really is showing, or no, it's during the 69 position, because look, you're not jerking off during this thing. It's a piece of shit. Think of the worst amateur porn you've ever seen. This is much, much worse.
Okay.
This is, but you have to appreciate it for like watching, I don't know, lions chase down gazelles or something in the African plains. So it's all 69, but you get like a good look of just like how muscular her body is. It's fucking impressive.
Okay.
I mean, she's got like a six pack, and she's actually got definition in her arms and shoulders and back. It's pretty interesting. So that was the best part of the video, to be honest. And then it cuts off to, there's a brief scene with Gululi in the bathtub and Tanya's holding the thing. You kind of want to get like a glimpse, of what he's packing. And
for science.
Yeah. For the sake of research here. Because why is an angel, why is a princess like Tonya Harding with this fucking loser?
Your urge to know what his redeeming qualities are is just growing and growing. You're like, what?
Yeah. And like I said, he's a good looking guy, but he obviously has no brains, as we saw with the assault. He's packing some heat. He's got a good 8.5 donger going on there. It's not bad. He's doing all right.
Okay.
So you get like a little bit of a glimpse of it. So at the end of the, after the 69, after Tanya's riding him for a while, and again, all of this is so dark. And by the way, this camera is just sitting off to the side on like a dresser while they're doing their thing on the bed. A water bed, of course, because it's the 90s. And why wouldn't they be on a water bed?
What a mistake.
So this camera's just sitting there. So it's not like there's anything moving around. It's just like the static shot of them. It just looks like two amorphous blobs doing stuff because it's so dark in there. You can make out enough of it, but it's nothing. Like I said, there's nothing hot. There's nothing sexy about this at all. So the last like 3 minutes is just Gululi's ass. That's all it is. He jumps on top. He's doing his thing. But with his 8-inch donger, I'm kind of sitting there like, like studying his movements. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do that hip thing when I'm fucking too, like I'm kind of just, like it's just his ass.
Yeah.
So you may as well get, maybe he's got something to show off. He doesn't. He's got nothing interesting going on. I guarantee my fucking technique is light years ahead of Gululi. Light years. So anyway, there's that. Then there's, so he finishes. He gets up and wanders over to the camera. Nothing. Again, there's no sense of beauty and love
Ambiance.
of husband and wife, or two people copulating as husband and wife for the first time. There's nothing special about this at all. This is just two people fucking, and not even good. The only thing you get out of it is you get to see how sinewy Tonya Harding is.
Scintillating?
No, like her body.
Yeah.
So then it goes to night 2. Camera cuts, opens up on night, another waterbed, a different hotel.
Right.
And it's just from this really bad side view this time. And there's nothing special about night 2. It's a turd. And the reason I despise Gululi more than I ever have before is
You're telling me something happened in night 2 that was worse than watching his ass for 3 minutes?
It was just the side. They set it up on a dresser next to the bed, so it was just a side view of them doing stuff in front of the camera. Like, there's nothing special about it at all. Again, the only thing interesting is you finally get to see a hot figure skater in her prime naked, which is kind of interesting because you see how muscular she is, how defined, how sculpted she is, which kind of surprised me. I didn't even know women could get that sculpted, to be honest. There's not a cell of fat anywhere on her body. It's pretty impressive.
So she's a muscle waifu. Gotcha.
Oh, she's not muscular though. She's just very toned.
Well, still counts.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, you were saying something happened on night 2 that made you hate him even more than you did before?
No. I'm saying this porno made me hate him.
Oh, you're just recapping.
Hire a second cameraman if you have to. This is something that needs to be in the Smithsonian someday.
Yeah.
You fucking blew it again, Gululi. And I hate him for it because this should have been such an epic thing. Anyway, Penthouse did buy this. So the only reason we have this is because in 1994, this is what got me looking into it. I just wanted to watch the porno because I had heard about it as a kid back then. And, but of course I watched it all the way through. And at the end, copyright Penthouse Magazine. And I'm like, well, what the hell's this? I thought it was just a video that got out through one of their friends or something. No, it was distributed wide scale. Penthouse paid them each $100,000 plus royalties to have this thing. And I think they got it like right before Gululi went to jail because he went to prison for a little while for his
involvement.
Yeah. And so they bought it from him just before before he went to prison. $100,000 each plus royalties.
You said her fine was 160, so that didn't even pay for it.
Plus royalties, though.
Yeah,
you got to remember, I guarantee at least 3 million people bought this thing. I don't have any sales numbers. I didn't even think to look them up, but given the scope of that event, that controversy, you have to imagine that there are millions of people who are like, porno tape with Tonya Harding? Yeah, they're going to buy that. And I guarantee Penthouse was charging
$35.
In the 90s for a VHS porno tape, you're talking $100 at least.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
We used to, so in Oshkosh, there was this porno shop. I can't remember what it's called now. I don't even know if it's still there. We used to go there all the time to buy like pipes and stuff for smoking weed. And I just remember like looking at the porno tapes and seeing like $60, $70 price tags on them.
Come to think of it, no,
for
yeah.
VHS tapes.
Yeah,
and
they-
just thinking like, that's a bag of weed. That's a quarter of
Yeah,
weed right there.
they really were insanely expensive now that you mention it.
So I guarantee this is Tonya Harding though. And so Penthouse gets a hold of this and I guarantee they're selling this thing for as much as they can fucking get for it.
Like $100, yeah.
Yeah. And so they're also getting royalties off this. I don't know what the percentage was, but I guarantee they both made bank off this shitty porno. Think of all of those poor men who paid all that money to get this porno tape in the mail, and they're finally, yes, it's here. The Tonya Harding. I can finally see her getting fucked. And they put in this piece of shit, and this is what they have.
20 minutes, you said. Grand total.
Well, I don't know. That's what's online. That's what I could find online. And by the way, I had to look at several different porn sites because I couldn't find one that had the entire thing because I kept finding new footage. And so I don't know if that's just a way to get around copyright somehow or
get
what
more
the
clicks.
deal is. But yeah, sure, to get more clicks. But the biggest one I found was like 22 minutes. And then I kept finding stuff after that.
Okay.
It's horrible. It's awful. And Jeff Gululi, you fucked everybody over with what should have been a momentous piece of cinematic history. Fuck you. You really blew it, buddy.
Somebody should make a reimagining of that.
I wouldn't be
porno
the
tape?
same though.
Animated?
It wouldn't be the same. It
Do a reimagining that's animated, but they also have the animated version of Jeff Gululi make lots of references to himself being an idiot.
no, you know what you do? You take Tonya Harding as she is now and put her in a porno. Have you seen her lately?
No.
Well, that was the last thing I was going to mention. Just where are they now?
And that did, yeah, I was going to ask you that.
So Tonya Harding in 2010, she's everything is over by this time, right? All the media for the most part. Tonya Harding had a brief boxing career for a little. She did celebrity boxing.
Oh, I vaguely remember that.
Against I just watched it too in preparation for this, but I wasn't going to talk about it. I was just going to mention celebrity boxing.
Was it a boxer's
Paula
daughter?
Jones.
Oh,
no, not Paula Jones. Paula. What was her name? This was also from the 90s because she was the first one who accused Bill Clinton of sexual harassment and blew up the whole sex scandal on Bill Clinton. Maybe it was Paula Jones.
It very well might have been.
I mean, that sounds familiar. I don't know. Anyway, that lady is the one that Tonya Harding boxed in the celebrity boxing match. So she did that. She was on the Man Show. I found a clip of that where she boxes Doug Stanhope and beats his ass. And they both did Dancing with the Stars. Nancy Kerrigan and
almost all of these things you're mentioning, I vaguely remember.
So the Dancing with the Stars, like I was watching that on YouTube, and Rosalind happened to be sitting there, and she's like, "What are you watching this for?" I'm like, "It's for the podcast. Wouldn't be watching this fucking garbage any other reason." But she was just like, "Who's that lady dancing?" Because you're talking this lady that looks like this chain smoking overweight granny from the trailer park. I mean, it's not pretty. Life has not been pretty to poor Tonya Harding. And I was like, that's Tonya Harding. She's like, the skater? She was even shocked by it.
You mentioned the year 2010. Is that the year that she did Dancing with the Stars?
No, I think it was after that.
Okay.
But the year 2010, this is, Nancy Kerrigan went on, she got married to like her agent or something, and she had like 3 kids. Nothing really happened with her. She was on Dancing with the Stars. Both of them were on TV a couple of times in relation to the incident. Nancy Kerrigan, unlike Tonya Harding, looks like, a kind of sexy old suburban soccer mom. I mean, she looks all right for being 50 or 55 or however old she is. So in 2010, Tonya Harding's in the bar. She's getting drinks with a friend, and they're sitting there chit-chatting and having a nice time. And it's karaoke night. And she hears this melodious, beautiful voice of an angel singing, and she looks up, and it's a guy named Joe that she just falls madly in love with. And that's who she's married to now. Some guy named Joe that she met in a karaoke bar. And again, that's so Tonya Harding. What is more Tonya Harding than finding your third husband in a karaoke bar and falling in love with him? I don't know what the song was that he was singing, probably Freebird or something, but she fell head over heels. And of course, his name is Joe. Again, you've been around the world. You could have had any man that you wanted in your prime. Joe from the karaoke bar.
All that hard work and all that focus and all of that getting shredded.
I don't know what happened. Something broke her. Something broke her where she's just like, fuck this high class, fake ass sport, which is what it is, right? I mean, we know that most of these skaters just come from high class families and they're skating their whole lives. She probably just said, fuck it, after the whole Nancy Kerrigan thing. And she's just like, fine. Oh, the other thing was too, after that happened, she got banned for life from the U.S. skating organization that oversees all the competition that happens.
Even though she never went to jail for anything?
Even though she never went to jail, and she even got her medals taken away, which is fucking bullshit. Like you still earned those. You still went out and competed and earned those. Just because you make a stupid mistake later, or at least somebody else did, it was never proven that she did anything. How do you get your shit taken away like that? That's awful. So I felt bad for her for that. But she got banned from ever competing again, which she says is why she kind of gave up skating anyway. Well, if I can't compete, what's the point? She's not wrong. She can't even coach. She's banned from coaching other skaters from competing. Wow. So she can't even do that. So what the fuck is she going to do besides sit in a karaoke bar and drink with her friend until she falls in love with karaoke icon Joe? Right? Like, what else is there? But anyway, she's happily married. They have a kid, Joe Jr. I don't know what his name is, but they have a kid together. They live in Canada. That's it. That's the Tonya Harding story. She's happy, I guess, by all appearances, living with Joe.
Wow.
That's it. That's how you wrap it up. And she's just going to grow old with, well, she already grew old. She's going to grow older with Joe. And that's the end of it. It's all going to come to an end someday. And then the Twitter feeds are going to be like, yeah, she was a great skater at the time, but she's dead now, and she'll always be remembered for being a wonderful human being and a wonderful skater. That's what they'll say. That won't be true at all, but... And again, props to her for making all of these people famous. Without her, nobody would know. Nobody would give a shit. I'm really, really bummed about the porn and Jeff Gululi fucking that up big time. But that's it. That's the story of Tonya Harding.
Yeah, I would say that's your mindfulness twist on your Tonya Harding Part 2 topic is how much it sucked to have realizing how much it must have sucked for guys in the 90s to have paid that much money for that porn and be so disappointed and so underwhelmed.
Because she had such an amazing ass, too. She had that, like I said, there wasn't any fat on her body at all. She is as lean as you can possibly be as a human being. She has the most perfect ass. And there was no... Like, if it was me, the ass would have been a central character throughout the entire thing. Absolutely. Oh, what a missed opportunity.
I think the mindfulness lesson here is just,
dude, even
whatever you do in your life, be the opposite of Jeff Gululi.
As a 13-year-old boy, I couldn't have jerked off to that video. It was that bad.
That is bad.
That is really bad. So, anyway, whatever. Sad.
I feel like
the saddest part about this whole tragedy really is the porn. It's not all the shit that went down with Nancy Kerrigan. She got over it, whatever. She cried about it a little bit, but she still went on to compete at the Olympics and badmouth Mickey Mouse and do whatever else she did. Who cares? Water under the bridge. The porn is something we could have had that was beautiful, and we're never going to have that.
I feel like if Tonya Harding were to die, like right now, everyone would be on social media talking about how awesome she was, the same way they did with Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah,
And all these
of
people
course.
would just be fronting.
Yeah.
They would be acting like they cared about. They would be acting like they knew her as anything more than just a person
Nancy
who made
Kerrigan
headlines.
would tweet something like, "Oh, I remember our practices together. She was always thinking of others and blah, blah, blah."
And she was very
would never,
inspirational.
yeah, and she would never ever mention.
People fluff it up. Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's ridiculous.
People are weird. And yet, and then you got the flip side to that. Every now and then a celebrity dies who's a big deal, and like there's too much else going on in the news, so like nobody really talks about it because of circuit. My number one go-to example was George Michael. George Michael was awesome. Awesome musician, had tons of hits, sold millions and millions of records. I feel like nobody talked about it when he died. I feel like people talked about Sinead O'Connor and
I didn't know he died.
and her one hit like 1,000 times more than they talked about George Michael. It was really weird. It's news cycles. It's literally the mainstream media telling us what to care about, and how much. But I could go on and on about that forever. My second topic is the fact that in the mid to late 90s, when teenage boys bought those posters of Pamela Anderson and Carmen Electra and Jenny McCarthy, and to some degree Anna Nicole Smith, and even that was the main group of those $6 posters you'd buy from Walmart's poster section. Even those were preceded by like Kathy Ireland, Cindy Crawford.
They were the flip posters. They were the ones that you would go there and like flip them, like you were looking at a book, and they were all just posters. Is that what you're talking about?
You go to Walmart and you flip through them, yeah. And then they were all in the dispenser underneath, all rolled up. Yeah, those bad boys. Oh, hey, before I get too much further into this, should we check the chat and see if anybody's chiming in? Maybe we have somebody who watched I, Tanya and has a little something to say. Doom, doom, doom,
Pat just says he remembers the Seinfeld episode
doom.
that made fun of Tonya Harding as, the understudy. Oh, yeah, the understudy. Oh, he's asking. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I actually mentioned that.
Right on. Um, my second topic is when it comes to those posters, again, yeah, you could usually find them at you'd go to Walmart or Kmart and you'd be flipping through. It'd be about 2 dozen posters. Sometimes it'd be a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. Sometimes it would be Carmen Electra or Jenny McCarthy. Sometimes it would be a Simpsons poster, whatever. I feel like dudes I feel like it was dumb to buy one of those posters.
So you never bought a chick poster?
Never.
Ever.
I honestly didn't know how my mom would feel about me even broaching the subject. I don't know if she would have been mad that I was being too much of a hornball and wanting a big boob blonde on my wall, or if she was mad that I didn't and she was like secretly worried that, oh, he cares about cartoons too much and not enough about girls. I legitimately to this day don't know how my mom would have reacted to me saying I was interested in buying a Jenny McCarthy poster.
But you were buying the posters, just not the chick posters.
Right. I was buying South Park, Beavis and Butthead, Simpsons, King of the Hill. One of those.
Yeah, I feel like if that was my kid, I'd be like, "What? You don't want the big booby poster? What the hell?"
Well, here's my thing.
I'm not a boob guy though either, so
the point I'm going for is I feel like it was dumb and overrated to buy those posters of those, big fake boob blonde chicks. And my argument for why I thought it was dumb and overrated was when you're a teenage boy in the late 90s like I was, wall space in your bedroom is precious advertising space to let anyone who might come into your room know who you were and what your angsty soul was all about. What are you really telling people when you have a poster of Jenny McCarthy?
That you're not gay.
Why do you need to advertise that?
Well, for the same reason you want to advertise that you like fucking Wayne's World.
Is it really the same reason, though?
It's kind of the same reason.
One of them has layers. One of them
Okay.
is just the same picture of boobs day in and day out for however many
Yeah,
years you
sure,
have that
but
poster
that's
up.
every poster. I didn't have big boob ladies in my room either. I had like Iron Maiden posters, and like most of my posters were like music and metal.
I feel like a poster of like I also used to be that kid who would go to Family Video or no, back then it was Preferred Video and try to beg them, shake them down for movie posters when they were done with them. I mostly
Good
loved to
idea.
put up Jackie Chan and Jim Carrey movie posters. Those were the ones I remember being the most obsessed with getting. And it opens conversation and your friends see Jim Carrey on the wall and you start making jokes from his movies and it's fun.
What's
And
the difference? Because you walk in and you see like big boobs, Carmen Electra or whoever else, Kathy Ireland, and then you come in there with your buddy and you both just take a moment, and you're looking at it and you're like, man, the things I would do with those boobs. Like you wouldn't really know what to do with them, but you're just like, oh yeah, I'd slap them around a little bit. That's what I'd do. Oh,
well, you're asking what's the difference. I think the difference is that it's some simp bullshit. I that's how I felt. And maybe
only if you pay for it though.
of course you pay six of your hard-earned dollars on this poster of Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah, but I feel like any
To
chick.
look at the same picture, the same boobs, and the same stance of the same girl day in and day out, you're a simp for her. You could have spent that $6 on a poster of a TV show that has episodes and stories and layers and characters
Yeah,
and
but
other
why?
stuff to talk
Like
about.
what? But why? Like I don't know. What's the difference?
I feel like it would be way more cost effective to buy a calendar or a magazine.
You are simping for her, by the way, because she definitely gets, some kind of royalty cut from that poster. But you're just simping for TV shows too. It's
How much goes into a blockbuster Jim Carrey movie?
a lot.
How much goes into taking one picture of Pamela Anderson posing in a bikini?
A lot for the in the 90s. You got to pay for it to fly her out somewhere and put her in a hotel. And that one shot that ends up on a poster, that is a whole video shoot, or that's a whole shoot all day long. And it gets into magazines and all kinds of other stuff. That's what they got paid so much money to do that shit. Because it's exhausting.
As opposed to an entire movie.
Yeah, but you do a movie and then you go home and you don't do anything for a year. And then you go out and do a movie again. Supermodel is out there every week hitting the sand on the beach. She works hard.
I I feel like it would have been more cost effective to buy a magazine or a calendar of chicks. Then you can look at
Sure,
more.
I agree with that.
But I don't know, man.
But you can buy the $6 posters. You can't buy like Playboy if you're a kid.
Yeah, but these posters you get at Kmart weren't Playboy-esque because they weren't nudies. So you could
No, I know, but they were still like sexy posters.
You can go out and buy Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. That's why remember how big of a deal the
No.
Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition was in the 90s?
I don't think you could buy like
Big deal.
I don't think you could buy magazines like Easy Rider and stuff like that. That was all like sexy chicks, but I don't think they were nude. Maybe Easy Rider was, but there were magazines that were like that were all sexy chicks on bikes and cars.
They just weren't as easy to get.
Yeah, I don't know.
So kids had
I think they might have been. I think they might have been like $7 a pop or $8 a pop too, maybe more than that.
And maybe to some degree, there's part of me that
you could get booby posters at the local fair too, though.
Yeah, no, true.
So you throw enough darts at the balloons, and there's your booby poster.
Do I want that Bon Jovi one for that cool logo, or do I want
I feel like
Kathy Ireland?
I had a chick poster one time that I accidentally won instead of like a Metallica poster or whatever I was trying to get. Because I wouldn't have been trying to get a bikini model poster. I would have been trying for like a metal poster.
I just, I don't
See,
feel like I would
Andy,
get.
here's the point, though. The point is, booby posters are universal to men everywhere. Jim Carrey movies are not. If I was your friend going into your bedroom and you're like, and all I saw was like cartoons that I never watched, I'd be like, that's cool, I guess. But if you had booby posters, I'd be like, the things I would do to those boobs.
But the booby posters appeal to a more mass audience the same way Home Improvement did versus a show like, say, the Dana Carvey show. I guess I'm just a little bit more of a rebel, a little bit more of a divergent thinker. I like my Dana Carvey show, and I like having TV show posters instead of Pamela Anderson posters in the 90s because I wasn't going for universal language. I was going for someone to ask me, "Oh, why do you like that?" You don't have to ask a dude with Carmen Electra on his wall, "Why do you like that?" They all already know. So
I think she's kind of repulsive, to be honest. And Pamela Anderson, for that matter. I've never found either one of those girls hot.
when I really stop and think about it, I guess the point I'm really making is I used to I used to feel this way in the 90s. I used to not get the point. Nowadays, I'm doing a little bit better at getting the point. The point is we have people have different values. If somebody's values is to have a Carmen Electra, a Jenny McCarthy, a Pamela Anderson, a Nana Nicole Smith on their wall.
Whoa, I think it's weird if you have like 10 of them. If you have your entire wall devoted to that. I thought you meant just having, one here and one there. And
I'm actually operating off the assumption that most dudes who had any had multiple. That's actually what I
yeah, but
thought was
having
the
like
norm.
three of them on your in your entire bedroom, that's not that many.
Uh, 3 or 4 is starting to get to be like, uh,
Maybe four is starting to get to be a bit much, but
uh
like three is fine. On all the walls, if you had three, this is a pretty small space right here. And if you had three booby posters shoved in among Wayne's World and King of the Hill and stuff like that, nobody would think that was weird. In fact, I might just put some up behind me. Maybe I'll go out and buy some. It won't be Carmen Electra though. It has to be somebody that I thought was hot back in the 90s, like Kathy Ireland. I thought she was fucking
yeah.
gorgeous.
This will be the topic in the conversation that finally makes you decorate your side.
Yeah.
um
All right.
I I just I didn't I just thought it was a little bit on the overrated side, and I guess I just again, I don't understand why people weren't just more like get a calendar, get a magazine. Maybe get something a little bit more for yourself. Again, wall space as a teenager, especially when you have as much angst and you want the world, you want to communicate, you want the world to know who you are, and you want to talk to them about stuff. Uh, the advertising space that is your wall space in your bedroom should be for stuff that gives you more stuff to talk about.
Hmm.
I guess that's what I got.
All right. I wish I could remember what I had up on my wall. Like I said, it was a lot of uh, when I first moved to Stevens Point in the late 90s and moved into an apartment, I had a poster of Kelly Bundy that we
Nice.
had up on the wall, but we didn't. We used that as like our Christmas tree and stuff too. We would hang ornaments on it during Christmas time, but that's all it was. It was just like the poster became a character in the apartment
That
that we could decorate and do things to. Like it was,
when I used to get drunk with my friends in Wapaka after I got home from the Navy, there was a poster of Lindsay Lohan on my buddy's apartment door, and we would like Sharpie on her and stuff like that and
yeah, yeah.
make her say things. Yeah, that's a little different. Um, I don't know. I guess one of my other points was how many of these dudes bought these posters and in their own head were kind of like, she's my girlfriend / my goal is to get a girlfriend like that someday, and that's what I'm trying to convey to people. It's like, uh,
That's a good motivation, though. It's a good motivational tool.
based on the fact that she has big fake boobs and you like the way she looks when she's posed in that one way so much that you want to look at it every day. I don't know. It's just it wasn't my
I don't
thing.
know, man. It just seems like you can either look at that or you can look at like a King of the Hill poster. To me, it's like the same thing. It's literally the same. I'm going to get bored of it and change it out after a month, one way or another, if
Yeah.
it's my bedroom. So whatever.
Am I just trying to say fake boobs are overrated? Is that what I'm really getting at?
No, the posters are how I'll not sit here and listen and talk shit about their boobs. How dare you?
I will unplug your mic, sir.
That's right. Uh, I don't know. Yeah,
It was
I
just a
get it.
it
I
was
get
a
what you're saying.
it was a phenomenon that I just didn't relate to, like, at all. I understood, I just didn't understood why it mattered as much as it mattered.
You know what's
That's it.
funny
That's
is
it.
that in white trash world where we come from, uh, you would go to your parents' friend's house and it would just be some dude who lived by himself and they would have like full-blown nudes up on their walls.
Yeah.
So
Everyone had
and
that
that was exciting. 'Cause you're
everyone
like,
had that
"Okay,
cool cousin who lived out of state who had porno mags and the nudies on his wall.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, all that cool stuff. Yep.
booby calendars and stuff like that. Absolutely. All right. Is that all you got?
I think
Should we
so.
wrap this up? Holy shit, it's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
it's that time anyways.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Any final thoughts?
Uh
Oh, Pat says, why wasn't Paulina Poroskova more popular as a supermodel? I don't even remember who that was.
I same here.
Uh, she's obviously Russian, so she's obviously hot. There's no doubt about that. Okay, I'm gonna look her up. So, that it? That all we got for tonight? We
I
shutting this down?
I think so. Dana Carvey rules. My hero.
He ruled for a while. I'm sure he's fine.
I think I have a Master of Disguise movie poster. I should maybe bring
Oh,
that.
Jesus. Throw it away. Like anybody who has a Master of Disguise movie poster up on their wall instead of big fake boobs automatically is getting written off. Oh, you like that movie? Uh, okay, dude.
What if I do it for the irony? What if I'm just trolling you? No?
You got to go with the boobs. Boobs every time. All right, I'm going to shut this down.
Turtle.
We'll do this again next week, 7 o'clock, same time, same place. Goodbye, everybody.
Same dweebs.
Have a great night.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for watching. See you next week.